I gotta tell you, my head is really starting to spin with this Alex Bregman stuff. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and today we're going to try and figure out where the Red Sox are at with this Alex Bregman sweepstakes, including what could potentially have been their contract offer to Bregman. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the reason we are making this video today is because of something Carlos Baerga, MLB insider and ex-player, said earlier this week on his podcast. Now, this is something that I wasn't normally going to talk about, but because I've seen it so many times in my comment section as well as during live streams, I figured this would be a good place for us to truly break everything down. Now, earlier this week on Monday, Baerga said not only that the Red Sox were heavily in on Alex Bregman, but he said, quote, and this is translated from Spanish, so it is a little bit of a rocky translation, but overall it is, I found out today that also Boston is going hard at Bregman, but not for 5 years, but 3. Here is the problem that is happening. 3 and one more option is what is happening. I do not know if that Soto has put fear to all the owners, but now it seems that 3 years is what they want to give. Honestly, again, it's a little bit of a rough translation, but I don't really know what Soto's doing connected to Alex Bregman in this conversation. I always thought that they were two kind of totally separate markets. Obviously, one big free agent usually sets the market for a lot of other free agents, but I always thought these two were kind of not totally related. I don't know what that's doing in this conversation, but obviously that's not the biggest takeaway. Obviously, the biggest takeaway is that Baerga here is saying, hey, the Red Sox, yeah, those guys are actually all the way in on Bregman. They're just not willing to go more than 3 or 4 years. And this isn't the first time we've heard Alex Bregman say, no, I want 5 or more. In fact, earlier this week, on top of this, the Cubs were also rumored to have had at least preliminary conversations with Alex Bregman on the possibility of a shorter term deal. A very similar deal to Cody Bellinger. 3 years, opt out after each year. You could dictate when you get back onto the market. We want you playing here for at least a season. Boris kind of came out and squashed that idea. No, we think Bregman is a long-term player. So if this is correct, there could be some validity to it. Alex Bregman saying, no, I want 5. The Red Sox saying, look, I want 3 or 4, kind of does make sense on a whole lot of levels, right? And that could actually be where the Red Sox are at. Now, to add on to this sort of mystery layer of where the Red Sox are at, earlier this week, Chris Cotillo also put out an article which didn't specifically name Alex Bregman, at least not in this source that he's talking about, but he also put this out there. Per source, the Red Sox are telling free agents they are prioritizing some bigger money pursuits before circling back to the middle and bottom of the market. I'm not entirely sure what bigger money pursuits would be outside of Alex Bregman and Tanner Scott. Outside of those two guys, the rest of the free agent market is that sort of middle bottom tier type player, right? And that's not an insult to any of these guys, but comparably to Bregman and Scott, everyone else is sort of in that middle or bottom tier. Now, a lot of people are taking a look at this and they're saying, well, couldn't this just mean they're going to spend money and extend Crochet, or they're going to extend one of these guys and that's their big money move? Maybe, right? But if you take a look at the wording of this Chris Cotillo source, it doesn't really sound like this is something they're talking about internal spending. It more so sounds like they're talking about external spending, right? If it was internal spending, why include the whole part about then circling back to the middle or bottom of the market? To me, that doesn't make a ton of sense. The other thing this could potentially mean is the Red Sox looking to trade for someone making a decent amount of salary, right? Say a Suzuki like Tyler Milliken mentioned on Section 10, maybe a Carlos Correa that we kind of heard tiny little rumblings about earlier in the offseason, right? Maybe it's someone in that ballpark. Nolan Arenado, he's got some money attached to him as well. That is always a possibility here, but if we're talking strictly about the market itself, it's Alex Bregman, it's Tanner Scott, and then it's the rest of the middle or the bottom of the market. It has to be one of those two guys, and if you connect that with the Carlos Baerga stuff, all of a sudden you're sitting there saying, well, the dots are kind of connecting a little bit, right? The Red Sox are pursuing Bregman. They are trying to get him on a short-term deal. They've been telling other free agents that this is the direction that they are looking to go in. Maybe this is where the Red Sox are standing. And that's kind of a positive thing, right? That's something to start getting excited about. Until you also include the fact that Jared Carrabis of Section 10, has been beating the drum this entire offseason that they haven't even approached him with an offer, right? Which is a total 180 from what Carlos Baerga is saying, because Baerga is sitting there and he's saying, look, the Sox are interested. The Sox are interested in a short-term deal, but they're very interested. Carabas has been saying, and obviously he's been speaking in only hypotheticals as to not give away his source information, but we all kind of know it's not hypotheticals, right? We know he's got connections to Bregman. We know he's got connections to Boris. So we know that he has those connections. He's sitting there saying the exact opposite. He's sitting there saying, look, it doesn't appear that the Red Sox are even remotely interested in Alex Bregman. And that's where my head starts to spin a little bit, right? Because then it becomes a game of he said, which side is correct? Well, let's look at the resumes. Carlos Baerga has nailed some stuff in the past. It's not that he's not an MLB insider, but he's also been kind of hit or miss, right? There have been times where Baerga has said something and then all of a sudden the total opposite ends up happening, and we're sitting here saying, what was that, right? Well, where did that come from? Baerga was saying this, and all of a sudden we're getting that. Carabas, on the other hand, for the most part, I can't really think of a time where he spoke about specifically Red Sox stuff where he's been wrong, if we're being honest, right? He's put out some stuff about whether or not the Red Sox are getting close, then it doesn't end up happening, but he's never firmly said something that was totally wrong. So if you're just going track record wise, right? I mean, Carabas very clearly has the upper hand here, but then you throw in the Chris Cotillo thing, and does that muddy some water a little bit? It absolutely does. So now you're sitting there, and again, your head starts to spin a little bit. Now, let me offer kind of if you piece everything together, hypothetical here. What if there is a hypothetical world in which every single one of these people is right? Now, that sounds a little bit tricky because they are kind of polar opposite conversations here, but if you piece them together, it does kind of work a little bit. Let me explain here. What if the Red Sox are sitting there, they're saying, Bregman, we know you're not getting a 6 or 7 year deal, right? We know that's not going to happen. The Blue Jays and the Tigers are the other two teams that have been connected to you more than anybody else. If they had been offering a 6 or 7 year deal, you probably would have gone to them if you wanted to go to those teams. We know that the Tigers had been off on years. We've known this for a little bit now. The Blue Jays, I'm pretty confident, made a legitimate offer, but it sounds like no one wants to go play in Canada, so it doesn't sound like that's a realistic option. The Red Sox are sitting there and they're saying, look, we know you're not getting that money. We know you're not getting that years and that total dollar amount that you've been looking for. We do want you. We just don't want to give it to you either. We don't want to outpay ourselves to bring you here. And what they are saying to Boris and Bregman is that, look, once you figure out that you are not going to get a long-term deal, give us a call, right? We would be willing to go 3 years with a 4th year option. That's where we're sitting. That's where we're staying. And once you figure out that that's your best offer, then you can come to us and we can start talking money. And what this would do, it would validate Baerga, right? It would show that the Red Sox are interested in Bregman. It would show that the Red Sox are looking for that kind of deal. It would validate Chris Cotillo's report saying that, yes, they're looking at this big market players trying to improve this team, right? And with Bregman sort of being the top of the market right now. And it would validate Carabas because Carabas is saying, look, there's been no formal offer, and this might technically not have been a formal offer. This might have been a look, we're going to give you 3 or 4 years, and once you figure out that that's your best offer, then you could come to us and we can hammer home the details. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. Right? I don't have any inside sources. I don't have any true information about where the Red Sox are with Bregman. All I am doing is taking the Baerga stuff, taking the Cotillo stuff, and taking the Carabas stuff, and I'm just sort of mashing it together. Now, again, it could end up being that this is totally wrong and that Baerga is totally right, or that Carabas is totally right, that Chris Cotillo, really, if I'm being honest, Chris Cotillo's one doesn't totally connect to Alex Bregman specifically, or in terms of which contract offer is the right one, whether it's none or whether it's 3 years with a 4th year option. It's just sort of adding on another layer of this intrigue. Right? My head is spinning. I've said that a couple of times this video, but you sit there and you look at it, and I simply do not know where the Red Sox stand in this. I have no idea what is going on with this Red Sox team and Alex Bregman. Now, at this point, if we're being honest, the longer that he sits in free agency, the better chance I think he has of landing on the Boston Red Sox. Because if he's going to settle for a team, if he's going to get to, let's say, early February, mid-February, and say, look, that's it, I just want to sign, I just want to play, his best option is absolutely with the Boston Red Sox, right? I don't think the Chicago Cubs really have any sort of merit to them. I know he wants to play in Boston. He likes the idea of the monster. He likes the idea of Alex Cora being able to go, let's say, 2 years then going back into the market or 3 years then going back into the market. What would be a better scenario for him? Playing at Comerica Park or playing at Fenway Park? I think the answer is clearly Fenway Park, right? So I think they have the edge over the Tigers as well. I like the fact that Alex Bregman still hasn't been signed. What I don't like is the idea that the Red Sox just simply aren't interested in it, right? Which I think is a very legitimate possibility. I think it's very truly a possibility that we are sitting here blowing smoke up an area that just smoke shouldn't be blown up, because we know that the Red Sox haven't put that true contract offer on the table. Maybe they've discussed years, but they certainly haven't discussed money maybe at this point. Again, I don't know. It doesn't sound like Breslow is even remotely interested in bringing him in here. We know Cora's interested. We know Kennedy's interested. We just don't know where Breslow sits in all of this. And there's a very real possibility at the end of it, it's nowhere, right? He's more comfortable just giving it to the young guys and letting them run. I have no idea. I have no clue where the Red Sox are with Alex Bregman. And every time I open my mouth to continue talking here, it feels like I'm just adding another point where your head starts to spin a little bit, where it's just another thing that you have to connect to a wall of other papers and you're putting the red string on. And it's starting to feel like Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia at this point. The other thing I will say is this feels exactly like what we saw with Jordan Montgomery last year, where all of us and all the media and everyone around Jordan Montgomery was saying, we think it's going to end up being the Red Sox, and then at the end of the day, the Red Sox weren't even a factor, right? Jordan Montgomery said it himself. He didn't want to come to the Red Sox. They put an offer on the table. He said, I'm good. I'll talk to you guys later. And I don't know if it's the same situation or not, because that's another layer of this. Can the Red Sox actually land this guy? Is Alex Bregman legitimately interested? I think the answer is yes, but I don't think we're going to know until he signs somewhere and talks about it. So taking a look at all of this, I think at the end of the day, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Bregman, essentially impossible. My hypothetical right now, based on everything we currently have on this Bregman situation, is that the Red Sox are sitting there and they're waiting this out, right? They're playing that game of chicken that Ken Rosenthal warned them not to do earlier this week as well. They're sitting there, they're saying, look, we're gonna stay strong at 3 years with a 4th year option, or 3 years with an option in there somewhere. Don't know if that's the exact translation or not, but they haven't talked about money, but they are interested. So that's kind of where I'm at, right? The but. It's a long-winded answer, but it truly is what I'm feeling right now. It's that the Red Sox are interested, but they don't want to give him more than he's worth, or more than they think he's worth. They don't want to give him more years than they want to be comfortable with. And whether that works out or not is something that remains to be seen. Let me know what you guys think. It's a lot of information, right? It's a ton of information. Which one's the correct one? Which one's the wrong one? I'm leaning towards Carabas being correct, but that doesn't mean my Baerga's totally wrong either. So let me know all your thoughts. Where are you with this Bregman stuff? Where do you think the Red Sox are with this Bregman stuff? And what do you think is the ultimate conclusion? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, best way to do that is to head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.